Hello, we are here today to review Crystal Palace. This has been, well, I thought we had not played this,
Right.
but actually as I read through the rules, I realized we actually had played it. It's just been a
But a
long
while ago.
time.
Yeah, this game's been out for a couple of years, so we just forgot.
Yeah, so this is a dice placement game. And we'll give the stats on this though.
Sure.
Oh, before we do that though, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can follow along on all these really interesting reviews, amazing reviews we have coming up.
So entertaining.
Yeah. 3,000 games we're going to have reviews for.
We're getting there.
Yeah. I think we made a slight dent in it this year.
I think we're over 100 right now, I think.
Yeah, but they're not all reviews. Well, I think we're probably got 100.
I think we're close to reviews.
Yeah.
So we're getting there.
Okay.
We're what, 1/30th of the way there?
I guess so.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Anyways, the Crystal Palace came out in 2019. The BGG rating is 7.6, a pretty good score there. Designer is Karsten Lauber. Art is by Andrea Alemano, I believe. Published by Capstone Games. MSRP, a little pricey, $69.95. And I think we paid pretty close to that when it first came out.
I probably got it at Gen Con if I remember.
I think
right.
so, yeah.
So
I think it was around that price. So, but I think price-wise, when you see all the stuff you get in it, kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's got a lot of components.
It's a lot of bits.
Yeah. So as far as the quality of those bits, you got some standard dice. They're nothing special. They're a little smaller than some, that you might find, but not bad.
But you get a lot of them.
Yeah, you get a lot of them. They're in, I think it's a 5-player game, so there's 5 player colors to choose from. And then you get wooden light bulbs and gears.
Yep.
Little
assistant.
Yeah, little assistant meeples in each player color. You get a top hat that's the round marker. That's pretty much all the wood. Other than that, you got a whole bunch of cardboard. Lots and lots of cardboard. And lots of iconography on said cardboard. Yes. So you have player mats for your players, but you also have location mats for each of the different options you have for dice placement. You have a scoreboard that has, that's all cardboard.
A couple of different things on it, though.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to the scoreboard.
And then you've got a black market, which is, another location, but it's not one you actually place dice on. You also have cards. These are not textured. They're just smooth.
They have a little bit of texture to them.
No, they're pretty much smooth.
Yeah, they're not. They're smooth.
But they're nice looking. I mean, I like
the art's really nice. On
and I like that they all have a history of the
they're two-sided. One side with the item, the building, the person, and then all the historical context and scoring on the back of it.
Yeah.
So they are
all these famous people and Robert Stevenson.
That's right.
Yeah. No, we didn't know who he was. We had to look it up. So. They have these little boxes. These are kind of neat. They actually look pretty cool, but they're not great.
They're not the best. They're supposed to hide the dice. We'll talk about when you do your pip selection on your dice. It's supposed to hide that. When I got my copy, I remember having a hard time getting them to stay closed. Mm-hmm. So I had to apply a little bit of glue where they stuck together, so I wouldn't have to worry about them falling apart.
Yeah. So I didn't realize you had this one too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then apart from that, I think that's pretty much all the components. You got some cardboard markers. You got some you got the wooden score track markers, but nothing outstanding.
Yeah, it's just that you get a lot of it.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So I don't want to give it a too terrible of a score, even though the initial cardboard.
So you're giving it a quantity score instead of a quality score.
Well, but the quality's not bad. It's just not good.
No, I mean there's nothing special about it.
Right.
But there is a lot of it.
You get a lot of it. So I think I'd give it a 7.5.
You're higher than I am. I'm going to be more like a 6.5 on it, and there's just nothing outstanding about any of the pieces. It's just, like you said, a lot of it, and it does look cool. I mean, some of the pieces look neat. I do like the color they chose of the boxes. I thought those look really pretty, but that's more cosmetic and thematic. As far as theme, this is basically you're going to a World's Fair.
It's the first World's Fair in Paris of 1851.
In London.
In London, yeah.
World's Fair in 1851.
I got the year right.
Yep, you got the year, just
1851.
The location.
Same part of Europe, same way around. It's Europe.
It is Europe.
I was in Europe.
You're in the right continent. Very good.
Yeah, thank you.
You would have missed the fair, though.
Yeah, by a couple miles.
Yeah. and all the people in France would have been laughing at you.
They would laugh at me anyway.
So the theme is very loose, except for the fact that the historic figures. I mean, they go well with it. Yeah,
I mean, thematically, you're looking at all the historical figures, the inventors, and the inventions the cards of the inventions. So
yeah,
but that's all I think of the theme. The rest of the stuff that you do on here doesn't really apply to the theme.
It's like they chose random locations in London to visit.
Right, and if there is some kind of historical context, it's not explained.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's completely layered on Euro, but at least you do have some of the history of the different inventors, which is kind of cool.
And they put a lot of work on the cards, because not just the artwork, but all the information on it.
Other than that, you get a lot of iconography. There's a ton of icons. They have actually a second book, which is the appendix, which is all about the iconography. And they have a few cards in there, but we'll get more into that in the rules. As far as theme, I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to give this one a 7, just because of the history on the cards.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't go too much above 7, even though the artwork on the cards is really nice.
Yeah,
I do like the artwork, but that's all you got. The cards is what makes this game.
Yeah.
The rest of it is just kind of meh.
Yeah.
So I think 7's a good score.
And I give it some kudos for having the Think Machine or whatever that has the 42 on it. That 42. Was awesome. Well done. Huge Douglas Adams fan, so that was awesome.
That was very cool.
So yeah, I really enjoy the theme of this, even though it is layered on. So 7 is a good score for it. As far as the rules, the rule book is just very dry to read. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just very boring to read, and it's a lot of it. It's
just so much of it. I had a hard time following along, listening. This is much
24 pages.
I highly recommend nominate someone to learn the game and have them teach it, because listening to the rules was rough.
Yeah, just reading the rules was rough. It took me several sessions. I fell asleep twice while reading this. It's just very dry. It's not badly done. It's just, I think that they could have probably done it more succinctly than what they did. And
it sounds like they could have streamlined it a little bit, and kind of maybe got a little bit more concise. And
I mean, I'm glad they went into detail with each location to explain how it operated.
Yeah.
And, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I couldn't find anything missing from it. Matter of fact, there was probably a little too much in it.
Yeah.
And then, the appendix that they gave this is where I actually am going to take off for missing things, because they have the iconography, which is helpful, but then they have patent cards and character cards, but only
a selection
of them.
Not all of them.
And some of the iconography
confusing.
Didn't look like it would be what it actually says it is.
Right.
So I think the character cards are a little misleading. I think you had one where it looked like it added something, and it really was taking it away.
It was. Well, it's this guy. It was Joseph Paxton. And when you look at it, it's got a picture of the blue card, which is the inventions, and it has a +1 light bulb, which makes it look like it either increases the cost of the light bulb, or maybe you get a light bulb when you do it. But no, it actually reduces the cost of the invention by a light bulb. Makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, so just some odd choices on the iconography, and the fact that they didn't explain all the cards. They just chose select one. So if you happen to be confused by those specific cards, you're in luck. You're squared away, because it's clear when you read it what it means. But if you don't get confused by those cards, you're confused by a different one.
Yeah, sorry about your luck.
Yeah,
figure it out.
So and the iconography is disjointed. So it's actually just the one piece of it. So you might have 4 or 5 icons on the same thing, and you have to piece them all together from here. So
yeah, it'd have been a whole lot better if they had an index of each card and an explanation.
Yeah. I mean, I think they definitely was lacking on that.
Right.
So from that, I'm going to give this one I think a 6.5. It probably would have gone up to a 7.5 because of the detail, if not for the lack of all that. It was a dry read, but it had everything in there, so you can't really fault it.
But it didn't have everything in it. The appendix
the rules did.
Yeah, but
the appendix, I agree, is lacking.
but I think that goes with it. I mean, if it just had the card explanation in it, I would agree with the 6.5 just because it was so boring and I couldn't. I mean, I stayed away, which was tough, but I couldn't follow along.
Well, it's just like reading one of the books from this time period. They try to make it period specific. It felt like you were reading one of those classic novels that put you to sleep.
But if we compare it to Catan, there was no confusion to Catan. I knew exactly what to do with Catan.
Well, to be
there was confusion.
There's more to this game than
You're right, but I don't know. I think a 6 is a little bit more than a 6. I think 6 is a better score than 6.5.
You're really fighting for that 1/2.
I am.
All right. So that was rules. So let's go on to gameplay. So the gameplay of this, it's actually not as bad as it looks.
It really isn't. Once you get, I think we were into maybe the second year the second year. We were moving right along.
Yeah,
we had it.
So basically, you get to start the game. You get 4 dice, and you don't roll the dice in this game. You actually set them to the value you're willing to pay because you pay for each pip. You start the game with 40 money, and if you basically don't really have a great source of income throughout the game. There is a chart where you can gain income for the temporary for the round, but money is tight. So you can allocate those dice however you want. So if you could put 6s on all 4 of them, but you're paying $24 if you do that. And basically those pips are going to determine where you can place dice because there's placement rules on the spaces that have a minimum number of pips on them. They're also going to determine the order in which you get to play your dice once you get them on. Because when you play them onto the boards, it's basically just committing your dice. It's not saying you're going to get the action because there's more places to hold dice than there are actually action spaces. So the higher number you play, the more odds you're going to have of actually getting to do what you wanted to do there.
But some of the spots cost money.
Yes, some of them actually give you perks. Usually it's they call it
a newspaper.
Well, an individual action, I think, or something.
Well, you got the assistant action.
Assistant action, yeah.
You got newspaper, and then you also get buzz.
Well, the newspapers and buzz are from the action themselves. Placement of the dice.
Oh, you're right.
It's either cost or
the assistant
actions. And the assistant actions can either be to assign someone to the black market, which gives you perks during the income phase, or if you've got each of us player has a randomized board that you're given at the beginning of the game that is country specific and it has its own in-game bonus on it. So there's 3 tiers of that bonus, and you can use your assistant action to move up on that chart if you've met the criteria for it. And again, everybody's different as far as their criteria. As far as the different action spaces you can go to the patent office where you can pick up patents for inventions that you can build. These will give you victory points when you complete the condition of cost on the side. But there's timing bonuses for playing these if you get them in conjunction with the inventor associated with them.
And the year you invent them.
Yes.
So, depending on which year, you might get more, you might get less.
Yeah. So some of them, like the later you wait, the more there were. Some of them, the earlier you play them. So they got a nice mix of cards there. They actually have some real people in the inventors group, and they have some fictitious ones.
Oh, there are fictitious ones?
Yeah, like Sherlock Holmes is in there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Dr. Watson's in
there. I didn't know that.
So yeah, I think I had Dr. Watson too. So that's kind of neat. So you can go to the Reform Club, and that's where you would meet and pick up an inventor and add them to your stash. They also have resource costs, but you have to pay those up front when you claim them. And then they have an upkeep cost every round that you're going to pay, depending on how much you've invested in Westminster, which we'll get to in a moment.
But they also have additional bonuses attached to either other inventors or the inventions.
Yeah.
And so if you get the right invention, then you can get, generally it's 4 bonus points.
Yeah, I think it is always 4 victory points.
I think so.
Yeah. And it depends on when you can get it retroactively. So if you've built the invention already, but then claim the inventor later, you get the 4 victory points. Or if you already have the inventor, when you create the invention, you get 4 victory points. So you'll get them at one point or the other, regardless of when you build them.
If you find them, because it is random.
Yeah, so you got to get to it in the deck and then claim it. And sometimes some of the inventors can do multiple inventions, which is kind of nice. Then you get the British Museum. This is where you go to get upgrades for your board, basically. There's 10 slots that you have on your board for upgrading. They actually are, if you don't fill them, are going to be negative victory points at the end of the game. Also, if you have to take a loan, that takes up your invention spots. So,
and most likely you will need to.
Yes, it's a very tight game, and once you've got a loan, you're permanently going to have negative victory points.
Permanent.
It's going to be -5 at minimum, but up to -10 victory points for a loan. But it's
just brutal.
Right, it's brutal, but it may be worth it because you're going to need that money. There's also the Bank of England where you can actually get income build up for the round, and that gives you there's a tiers system, and you can get multiple steps up the tier. But only two tiles are there for a 3-player game, so you're not all going to get one.
And the interesting part is during the progression, you always drop down.
Yeah, every round.
I don't know why. Was there an explanation? The rulebook.
I think it's just to make it more competitive.
Okay.
So there's a chart, but like Robert said, as you move up the chart, at the end after your income, you move back 3 steps on that chart.
Well, I didn't.
And if you get to the bottom, you're losing victory points. So you want to keep up on that income chart. So that's Bank of England. Then we have Westminster. So Westminster is kind of your how you schmooze in society. So you move up on that chart. You get bonuses for moving up, but most importantly, it affects the costs of your inventors that you have to pay as the maintenance. Not the cost to buy them, but the cost to keep them each round.
And they're all different. What's interesting is like some's really expensive at the beginning, but if you build it up, they get to cheap or nothing at all. Where others are more expensive in the middle or more expensive at the end.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting how you have, and really interesting if you got characters that are on both sides.
Yeah.
So it's like, where do I go?
Yeah.
Either way,
that's the way I
expensive.
was. Because that's why I stayed in the middle. I got to the middle of the road on Westminster and just stopped because I had ones that were really expensive at the low end and really expensive at the high end. The middle was the sweet spot. So that's why I stayed there. So that was neat. And then we talked about the Reform Club. London Times, this is basically during game bonuses you can acquire for meeting criteria, kind of like the in-game bonuses, but each round there's a specific round bonus. And if you've met that round's criteria, you can get additional track on the Buzz track. And the Buzz track is basically gives you scoring perks as you move up the track, and an in-game bonus for being the highest on it, really, is all it does. And then also you can place, there's 2 little discs you can play as you move up the track, and drop them off that give you income for victory points. Right. Which is really nice if you can get them up there soon.
Yeah,
early.
I was pretty lucky, and I got it built up pretty quick, and I got a decent amount of points off of it.
I was furthest back on the Buzz track, but it didn't impact me from winning. I mean, it's obviously you jumped up really close at the end, but I was able to dominate in other areas. So this is a really balanced game from what I've seen. I don't think there's one path that's just going to always lead to victory. The Port of London, this is basically Port of London and Waterloo Station, for that matter, both kind of a hodgepodge of different actions.
Right, but they were probably some of the most used spots in the game, I think.
So they give you different random things. You can get additional dice as one action because you start with 6 dice, but you only get to keep 4 at the beginning. This lets you get another die. Or you can spend a die permanently out of your collection to get victory points, a bonus at the end. So there's both of those kind of perks. And then there's also getting additional gears, which are useful for buying getting the inventors and the inventions. Yeah. And then there are there's like the tickets we already talked about. There's additional actions using your assistants you can do. And the other board lets you get light bulbs and also can do scoring track or doing the Buzz track, so you can get bonuses for that.
So one of the other interesting parts is that they're all numbered. So you have to go in order when you do those actions. So this board is number 1, then you go to the number 2 board, and you go to number 3 board. And it's important to remember that because you might need to get gears off the Port of London. But if you don't have the gears, then you can't get the stuff that's earlier in the round.
Gears were the hard one for us during the game because the gears don't come out until the 7th action board, which is Port of London. So if you need gears, you're going to have to get them other ways. You can buy them. You can use your newspaper track, which is a bonus you get during the game for placing and getting the actions.
And that's how I did most of mine.
Yeah.
Because I used newspapers a lot.
Yeah, so I had to buy a lot of mine, which cost me a lot of money, and that's why I had to ultimately take my first loan, is because I needed gears. So yeah, basically it's just a matter of balancing your money and figuring out when do you want to take the loan, if you have to, what actions you can get. There's a lot of decisions to be made in this game.
It's a surprisingly deep, heavy game.
Yeah, well, I don't know how surprising. It looks deep when you get
it does,
on the table.
but I mean, I like the fact that doing the actions isn't complicated, but figuring out what actions you need to do. There's a lot of that.
I mean, it sounds convoluted, but when you actually get to playing it, there's a lot of. I mean, it flows. It's not.
It does.
It's not difficult to play,
and it all makes sense.
Yeah, it took us a while, like reading through it, and then it was like, oh, I remember that. The cards stuck in my mind. That's what reminded me we had already played this before, but I had completely forgotten how to play it because we hadn't played in probably 2 years. So it's one I forget to get out again. It's on the shelf and it's always downstairs. I never think about it, and I enjoy this game a lot.
It's a good game. It's a good game.
Yeah. I just really enjoy the depth and detail, the different choices you can make. I like the inventors, the theme of it. I'm going to give this one a 9 because it's really right up my alley as far as the choices I like to make in games. Lots of ways to score. It's a pretty high scoring game, actually.
Yeah, I thought for sure Randy was running. He was running away with it, and I was able to jump up by quite a bit. And I lost by 10, but really not that much. But I was able to get like almost 30 points in just one round.
Yeah.
So I was able to jump up a lot, but I did really enjoy it. I don't know if it's a 9 for me. I think it's closer, maybe 8.5. I think I can go an 8.5. But I did really like it. It's a solid game.
So that is our assessment of Crystal Palace. If you've been eyeing this one, I would say go ahead and pull the trigger on it.
I think so. I think it's well worth it.
Yeah, like I said, it's not the quality in this case.
Yeah, and it's not an intro game for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would say, medium to heavy.
I agree.
Just because of the rule book. The gameplay is actually not that heavy. I would rate it a medium on gameplay, but it's intimidating.
Yeah, maybe a playthrough, watching a video playthrough might be a good idea.
Yeah.
In addition to the rule book.
Well, yeah, once you get to learning it, it's not that bad.
Right.
If you don't mind iconography, there is a lot of iconography. I would rank this iconography similar to what you get in Lorenzo, or what's the other one? Newton. Newton would be another similar.
Yeah, but Newton was more streamlined, I think.
I guess. I mean, this one definitely had more confusion with the icons.
But either way, hopefully you enjoyed the review, and if you like it, jump on it. I think it's a fun game to have.
All right, well, that's our assessment. Hopefully you'll come back and join us for future assessments. And
how are you going to know that? By hitting the
subscribe button so you'll know when we get a post out there.
And making a comment.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. We'd like to hear what you think.
Absolutely.
What are your favorite heavier Euros? That'd be awesome to hear.
Absolutely.
All right, till next time. Bye.
Bye.